Guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This is Tristan with Lawson's Car Reviews, and today I have the 2023 Dodge Durango GT. This is the all-wheel drive version of this vehicle. They do make a front-wheel drive, which is the SXT, I believe, and then they make the RT, which is the V8 version, and then I think they even make a big boy version that's got the even bigger Hemi in it. Could be mistaken on that. And then they've also got the Citadel trim, but like I said, today this one is the GT trim, which I quite like. It's got the 3.6 litre V6 engine in it. Looks pretty sharp. The white looks fairly good. I've seen it in other colors and it looks great in other colors as well, but overall, you know, the look of it is decent. Could use a little bit of a redesign. It's getting a little long in the tooth, but if you are a Dodge fan, it definitely follows the principles of all of the other Dodge vehicles, especially with the lights. The lights are very similar to that of a Dodge Charger, and the way that it's got the honeycomb grille, it is very, very similar. And then you've got the cool little Dodge badge on the front with the typical Dodge emblem here as well. And then you've got the basic Dodge key fob, which has the button to lift the lift gate at the back, and then it's got the remote start feature. But overall, the front has got a decently aggressive look, just like it does, I think, on the Chargers. And then you've got some little fog lights down there at the bottom. But the top is decent. The only thing I think I would change about the front is maybe instead of these lines, which you can't even see on the white color, you can see if I angle it a little bit, I probably would actually have it have a bulge like it does on the Chargers, because I think it would make the overall look of it look a little bit more aggressive. But I do really dig the way the style of the daytime running lights are. I really like the turn signals. It's got the lights in the side too. If you look, when I hit the button again, those change color to yellow, so that's pretty cool. You can get different colored wheels than what these are. These are actually just the basic alloy, but they are 20 inches. They are 265 by 50 on a 20-inch rim. It's kind of a blend style, but it's decent. But as big as the vehicle is, it looks like you could fit some 22s there and it would look a lot nicer. But there are some different wheel choices when it comes to the model of this vehicle. Comparing it to the Traverse, it seems like it's a little bit shorter than what the Traverse is. There's plenty of leg room in the back for the middle compartment. I think you can get these with captain seats, which I'll show you that in a second. Let me show you the back end of this. If you press this button twice, it's actually going to open up the trunk of the vehicle, and then we'll take a look and I'll show you how much. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have a decent size trunk. The information will be on the screen to show you how much room it's got. Comparing it to the Chevy Traverse, which we also had for about 3 days, it is smaller in size when it comes to the trunk by a decent amount. The Traverse's trunk was actually pretty big. If you look here though, there is a very deep pocket to store more stuff, which the Traverse also had. So this is more than enough room. If you pull this lever, this actually allows the seats to drop down, which leaves you even more room. So what I was saying earlier is, in the back you've got the 2 seats, and then you've got a bench seat in the middle. So in order for the guys in the front to get back here, the seats have to fold forward, and I'll show you that. The one thing I really like about this, on a lot of cars, to close it, they have the button all the way up here. On this one, they don't have that. They actually have it here. So when you're struggling with your bags, instead of having to reach all the way up to the top, you can just press the button down here and it's going to go ahead and close it. Okay, so looking at the back of the vehicle, as you can see, it's got the Durango badge right here, And anytime you see this on a Charger or a Challenger or Durango, it always means that it's an all-wheel drive vehicle. You've got the GT here, which usually, you know, is going to be the all-wheel drive option too. You've got these nice exhaust tips, and they are real metal exhaust tips. They're not just a trim for show. Rear wiper here, which on this type of car, unlike others, you can't really stick it under here because there's not much of a lip, so I understand why they put it here on this one. But on the Traverse, there was more than enough room to hide it underneath the top of the thing. This is the gas cap, which you have to open from the inside of the vehicle. But looking towards the interior, as you can see, there's plenty of room back here. This is the bench seat, so if I move my kid's car seat, which you'll see they've already made a little bit of a mess here, you'll see there's actually plenty of leg room. This is me with my seat all the way back, but there's lots of room here. My other son sits over there, there's lots of room. But to get back here, this is the one negative. That's why some people get this with the captain's seat, which means you can only sit 6 instead of 7, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you get the captain's seat, it eliminates the seat in the middle, but you have to pull this handle here. It drops the seat forward, and then the kids have to climb in the back. So it is a little bit more cumbersome, but it can be done. Got an armrest here, which is actually extremely soft. And one thing that I do like about this vehicle is it's got some decent sized pockets, pretty good speakers on here. And then this is the good bit, is in the back they've got their own air vents, but they've also got heated seats down here on each side. So my son absolutely loves that. And then you've got a house outlet style down here, and then you've got 2 USB A's, and then you've got those little mat pockets at the back. But the seats are, I think, amazing. I love the quality of the leather and the touch and the feel of them, and they're actually really comfortable to sit in, both in the front and in the back. And if you actually look in the back, there's plenty of leg room in the back too. So this is not a small vehicle. There's definitely lots of leg room, and the kids have already commented on that. They've got plenty of space. There is no USB connectivity all the way in the back. There was connectivity in the back for the Traverse, but not in this particular one. But they have lots of air vents along the top as well, and they've got their controls for the AC back there too. So it's quite feature rich when it comes to the back of the vehicle. Moving towards the front, we've got a very ample sized wing mirror. They are heated, as you can see here, and it's also got the blind spot detectors right here. Let me know, what do you guys think about the side profile of the vehicle? I don't think it looks as good as my Acura MDX, because that's got lots of sharp lines and it's got pretty high-tech lighting system at the front. But I think that this looks pretty decent, to be honest. And I really like the look of these leather seats, especially the little Dodge emblem that's on them as well. But the interior is really comfortable. These seats are almost identical to the seats that you get on, say, like a Scat Pack Charger. And because this is all leather, it actually has a very nice premium feel to the interior. So you still got the larger door pockets for extra drinks, one touch down for driver and passenger side, and the rears are manual to bring them back up. It would have been cool if they would have added, you know, like aluminium pedals. That would have been nice, or if they would have had an aluminium seal plate here, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. You've got power seats on both the driver and the passenger side. This one has lumbar support. And like I said, also this is on the passenger side. I just wanted to show you. This one also has the exact same controls, also has the lumbar support in the back. You've got a little mat pocket here, and then you've got decent size glove box. You get all the goodies, like I said, 2023 Durango. And then you get this little bag that you can put the book in, and then all the other little goodies that comes in the glove compartment. You also get a 12-volt outlet just down here, and then you've got two decent size cup holders, and then a nice pad here. This does not charge your phone like it does in the Traverse. I'm sure that might be an option you can get, but the cool thing is you've got an auxiliary port here, and then you've got two USB-A's, two USB-C's, and just a really nice looking interior with the dash. This stuff feels like nice soft plastic. It doesn't feel cheap like it did in some parts of the Traverse. This is kind of a little bit like a simulated carbon fiber look, and then you've got the leather that wraps around all the way around the dash. And one of my most favorite things in the car is this touchscreen is awesome, which I will show you shortly. This is mated to a 8-speed automatic transmission. I'm sure it's the same ZF 8-speed that they do in their things. And then in the glove compartment, you've got the shallow compartment, and then you've got the deep compartment in there, which has another 12-volt right there. So plenty of connectivity for this vehicle. Okay, so my favorite part. So first of all, it's got a nice sunroof, one touch to open. That opens it all the way with one touch, and then you can close it. And then there's another button that you can press to vent the sunroof or to just close it back. And then you've also got 3 settings for the garage door opener, so that's a nice touch. Like the rear view mirror, once again, this could be frameless, and I think it would make the interior look a little bit nicer. But overall, guys, the interior in this thing is, I absolutely love it. I like the interior in this a bit more than my Acura. It's just more modern, and I definitely get a very nice high quality feel from the touch and the materials of this interior. I really like that the dials are all very intuitive. So you've got heated steering wheel, heated seats, cooled seats, 3 levels, and then you've got 3 levels of heated seats, which you can also control up here on the touchscreen on top of that. And then you've got dual climate control, you've got park assist, traction control, you've got sport mode button. You can put the car into gear, and if you flick it over, now you're in manual mode, so you can change it with the gear shifter here, or you can use these little tiny pedal shifters up here. So you do have different options for shifting the car as well. Let me close the door and I'll show you what the dash looks like. Now the dash has got so many options. So let's show you first. So you got the regular speedometer. If you hit the switch, you can switch it to a manual style speedo. You can switch it back to the regular speedometer. If you go through the options, you've got the battery voltage, adaptive cruise control options, your current miles per gallon and everything. That's got your miles per gallon, it's got your timer, it's got the overall mileage. This car only has got 18,000 miles on it, so it's very low miles. And then your distance, radio, all kinds of stuff. And then if you flick over on some of the other options, then you can see your tire pressure monitor, coolant temperature, transmission temperature, oil temperature, oil pressure, battery voltage again. And a lot of these have got additional information as you go through. And there's just plenty of features on here. Plenty of features. The other thing that I like on this vehicle is on the main screen, you know, and all of this is just very clear to read. And I really like the style and the clarity of this dash. It's so much nicer than the dash on the Acura MDX and on the Traverse combined. This is just amazing to use. It's so intuitive. It's so easy. The screen is nice and big. The radio is pretty decent. It's got it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on it. It has some other features where if you hit for vehicle, and then do you see how in the back of the car you've got those headrests up? If you press this button, it's going to make the headrest drop. Boom. That's a nice feature, because then it means you've got more visibility at the back and you don't have to worry about going back there and manually dropping them. If you press this, it pulls up the rear view camera, even if you're not in reverse, just to see what's behind you. The one thing that I don't like about this screen, resolution is super high quality. The camera itself, as you can see, it's very grainy. The Traverse's camera is so much clearer than this one. That's the one negative about the interior. Everything else is really on point, but the camera is absolute crap. It looks as crap as what it was on my Chrysler Town & Country, which is disappointing. So, but yep, you hit that comfort button. It shows you all the stuff to do with the seats and all that good stuff. The car has preset seating, so you could set one for your wife or girlfriend, one for yourself. But there's just so many different options on here. You know, there's too many to go through on this. But yeah, there's plenty of options. It's got the time up here. You can set your own profile for all of this stuff. There's just so much stuff that you can play with. I believe it even has a built-in hotspot that you can use as well. So stop button is here. Looks really nice too. But yeah, just overall the quality of the interior looks really good. The seats look awesome. The headrests do this thing where they click and they can sit forward, or they can just flick back. So that's a nice touch as well. But yeah, in general, I just think that the interior looks really, really nice. Let's go ahead and just take a quick look under the hood, and then we will take this thing for a spin. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We have Dodge's standard 3.6 litre V6 engine. This particular engine makes 295 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. Compare that to the Traverse. The Traverse made 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. So a little bit more power, and you can feel it because this is a heavy vehicle. This vehicle weighs around 4,800 pounds. Actually, it weighs just a shade under 4,900 pounds. So it weighs more than the Traverse, and it weighs more than the Acura MDX. You do feel that when you're putting your foot down, and you also feel it when you're braking the vehicle. You can feel the weight that it's carrying in the corners. One thing that I will say about this car is it does have very good brakes. They're very responsive. They feel good, but this is not a car to carve any corners in. It does get 26 miles to the gallon on the highway, 19 miles to the gallon in the city if you have the front wheel drive version. It may be rear wheel drive. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that doesn't really matter because this is the all wheel drive version, and this makes 25 on the highway and 18 in the city. That's what it's advertised to make, but I actually think that it gets better gas mileage than that since I've been driving it, especially when you put it in cruise control. This gets better gas mileage than my Acura. The Acura averages about 18. This has been averaging close to 21. So even though it's a heavier vehicle than my Acura MDX, and the engine sizes are comparable, 3.5 V6 versus a 3.6 V6. This gets better gas mileage than what my Acura does, so that is pretty cool. 0 to 60, what I found was about 7.4 seconds, and I honestly couldn't find anything for what its quarter mile time is. My guess would be that it's going to be around 15.5 seconds, just based on what I know about other vehicles and how they drive too. And the MSRP on this thing, it says online about 38,000, but car prices are kind of insane right now, so it's probably, for this one with all the leather and the sunroof and all of that, this is probably going to be between, I would say, 44 and 48,000, especially for a GT version of this. But pretty impressed with it so far. Like I said, it looks okay, not as good as my Acura, but if you're a Dodge person, you'll definitely like this, especially if you've got to carry the family around. So let's go ahead and take this thing for a spin, and we'll see what you guys think of it. So my wife and I have had this vehicle for about 3 days already. When we got our first rental, since our MDX is in the shop, since someone rear-ended it, after only owning it for 6 weeks, by the way. But yeah, after we got the first rental, which was a 2023 Chevy Traverse LT, it was not fully loaded in the way that this one is, with leather and everything, but this car and that car both have its own positives and negatives. So let me just start by saying I actually really like this particular vehicle to drive. I'll tell you the things that I preferred on the Traverse first. So one, the Traverse definitely has more power. You can feel it. So this has 295 horsepower. The Traverse had 310 horsepower. Oh, this dang thing's broken. Anyway, and it had 266 pound-feet of torque, whereas this has got 260. But when you put your foot down in the Traverse, you can definitely feel the extra power. It might not sound like a lot, but this is a pretty heavy vehicle. This weighs like 4,800 pounds, and I think the Traverse weighed a little bit less than that, but it just felt faster in general. The other thing was the backup camera in the Traverse was extremely clear. There's a little bit more room in the back seats, and the trunk, even with all 3 rows up in the Traverse, just had way more room in general. This one has got a decent amount of room, but definitely not as much as the Traverse. So, you know, that's a big difference. I would actually say that the Traverse probably had as much trunk room as what my Chrysler Town and Country has. So decent when it comes to the practicality of the Traverse. Now, those were really the only things that I preferred about the Traverse. Oh, the other thing was you had a manual differential where you could switch it from 2-wheel drive mode to 4-wheel drive mode to all-wheel drive mode. Whereas with this, I believe this is just an all-wheel drive all the time. Not a huge deal, but you know, it is nice to have that flexibility, being able to switch between the different modes. But this one overall, trust me, it's way nicer than what the Traverse is. I actually think I prefer the interior, especially how modern it looks in this compared to my Acura MDX. I like that this has the digital dash, and it's just got so many more features that you can go through on this dash than what my Acura does, by a long shot. It's got way more features. The screen is bigger and it's easier to use, and it's a lot clearer. It's really strange because the screen is actually really clear, but the backup camera is terrible. The backup camera, I think, looks worse than what it did in my minivan. It's all grainy, The lines on it are all old school. Doesn't look very good at all when it comes to that, but the rest of the car feels wonderful. I will say that this transmission, it doesn't seem to shift quite as fast as what it does in a Dodge Charger or a Dodge Challenger, but it's still pretty decent. It works decent when you're in manual mode or when you use the pedals that are on the steering wheel, and the steering wheel also feels awesome. Dodge does some of my favorite steering wheels, so I almost never have a complaint about that. Maybe if I was really nitpicking, and honestly this is not a huge deal, if I was going to change something about the steering wheel, I might make the diameter excuse me, of the steering wheel a little bit smaller instead of being so big. But like I said, it doesn't bother me. I'm literally just nitpicking. Let me put my foot down real quick. I'm going 60. Put my foot down. As you can hear, the exhaust in the engine sounds pretty decent. I don't think it sounds as good as my Acura, but it's very close. It's on par. It sounds way better than what the Traverse's engine sounded, which that also sounded decent, but nowhere near as good. When you put the car into sports mode, it seems like it makes a little bit more sound, and it holds the gears slightly longer, and it keeps the revs a little bit higher. So I do like that feature. The seats are extremely comfortable. Even though they're bolstered on the sides, they really don't hold you in place. They're still pretty slick. The only way that it would be bolstered for you tightly would be if you was a big fat guy. But if you're regular sized or not really big, then there's lots of wiggle room, so it is comfortable. Remember, this is a sports car, so it's not made to hug you in perfectly. The other thing is, love the power seats. There's a button in here where, you know, if the headrests are up in the back, you can press the button and it will drop the headrests, so you don't have to go all the way back to manually drop them. That way you've got more visibility in your rear view mirror. So that's an awesome thing. And just the overall ride is good. It's more quiet inside this cabin than it is in the Traverse, but it's not as quiet as what the MDX is. So you still get a little bit more of that refined feel from the MDX than what you do this. If we're comparing the three, the MDX is at the top for refinement, this is in the middle, and then the Traverse is at the back. Because even if you got the fully loaded Traverse with all of the leather, that's still not really going to change the sound deadening in the vehicle or anything like that. Let me put it in sports mode, which also turns off eco mode. Let me put my foot down again. Okay, it sounds good. And when you let off the gas, it keeps you in the same gear before it drops and changes gear. It keeps you in the same gear, which, like I said, it gives you a bit more of a sporty feel. I don't notice any difference in the steering. I do like the steering a lot more in this car than what I did the Traverse. The Traverse's was a little bit too light. This has definitely got a bit more weight to it. When I put it in sports mode, it doesn't change the weight or anything like that. On a nice warm day like today, the heated and cooled seats, the cooled seats especially, are just a great luxury. Steering wheel's heated on this car. You know, it's got plenty of options, and I really like that you can control some of the things from the touchscreen, but you've also got physical buttons down here. One thing that I don't like about my Acura is, to mess with the heated seats, you do have to use the actual touchscreen, which sometimes I'm old school. I just want that physical button that you can press. I like that it's got a sunroof, you know, get the job done. Gives a bit more of an airy feeling in the car, makes it seem like it's bigger overall just because it lightens up the cabin. And I really like the color of these seats. They're not like a bright blood red, they're more of like a, I guess, a dark crimson. And I love that it's got the emblem for Dodge behind on the seats, so that's really good. And the other thing is, the kids did like the Traverse and they do like the Acura, but if I'm being completely honest, when we got this, they completely loved the inside of this car. They was like, oh my gosh, it's got so much room and it's so comfortable. Even the rear seats are heated, which my son, he loves that. He has autism, so he rarely is into things that messes with his sensors. So when he can press that and the seats get all warm, he absolutely loves that. So even if you know, if there's one of you watching and you've got a child who's on the spectrum, think about that, because they really do like little touches like that, where, you know, if they've got a seat warmer, they absolutely love it. Which, it sounds like a small thing, but if your kid's comfort is high on the list of things that you want from your vehicle, then, you know, the heated seats in the back are quite a big deal. This is a big thing to mention. One thing that I noticed with this vehicle also, it gets about 2.5 miles to the gallon more than what my Acura MDX gets. One thing that I do not like about my Acura is it has got very subpar gas mileage. So it averages about 18.1 to about 18.9 miles to gallon when we're driving it on the highway and in the city. We've had this and we've driven it in the city, we've driven it on the highway, we've actually been all over quite a bit in the 3 days, and this car is averaging about 20.9 to about 21.7.8. So an extra 2 to 3 miles per gallon is a big deal, because over time it's going to accumulate and you're going to save a lot more money in gas in this vehicle. And, you know, I just feel like the way how technology is nowadays, these cars should be able to get way better gas miles than 18.1. So Acura, Honda, that's a huge negative, where this car actually meets the need when it comes to gas mileage. I have driven, and I'll put in the description, the link to the Acura, the link to the Traverse review, and I'm also going to put the link to the Grand Jeep Cherokee L, which was the extended wheelbase version, because that has a very similar interior, but I think I like this one more because it feels a bit sportier than what the one in the Cherokee does. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think this middle section, this middle console, was a little bit different. But overall, I actually really like this. I love the interior. Like I said, I think I actually prefer the interior more on this vehicle than what I even did on my own Acura. The difference though is, on the outside, the Acura just looks a lot better. The lines and the lights and everything look a bit more futuristic, so I definitely prefer the Acura from the outside, but I prefer this on the inside. On the outside, I feel like this is a bit bland, especially in this white color. Needs a little bit of a redesign when it comes to the outside. So, but anyway, guys, leave a comment, like the video, and leave a like. Helps the channel to grow. I'm going to leave my Lawson score up on the screen. Let me know what you think of these cars. Let me know if you've had any troubles with them, if you recommend buying it, or if you regret buying a Durango and wish you would have bought the MDX. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.